Florida Warm-Up is the first tournament of the season for teams in the New England, Southeast, and North Central regions. Instead of pool play, there is instead a giant round robin. After every team has played 5 games, the top 8 teams move on to Sunday bracket to determine a champion. So, let's see how they did. After the first 3 rounds of games, these were the top 10 schools. The rating system is the tiebreaker, and it's based off the USAU rating system. Without going into how the actual system works, to put it simply, it's based on margin of victory and strength of opponent. For example, Vermont's rating is really low because their first win came off of South Florida, who were the worst rated team in the tournament. Georgia, Brown, and Carleton sat at the top, going 2-0 in their games, with Georgia being ranked the highest after beating Northeastern by 3 and BYU by 2. But Northeastern was still in the mix by beating Michigan by 4 in their second game. Other games of note included UMass beating Texas tough on Universe, and Tufts edging out Alabama on Universe, leaving the Nightmares sitting in 11th. Heading into the 4th round, the stage was set for a game between Brown and Carleton, the winner staying undefeated and likely topping the tournament. I don't have footage of the game, but I do have Carleton and Brown's Twitter threads reading the game. Carleton broke to start the game 1-0. Brown was then able to hold their next possession, and their scores began to climb until the score reached 4-4, where Brown was able to get their first break. Brown held their lead going into half 6-7. Carleton and Brown continued to hold out of the second half until the score reached 11-11, with Brown needing a hold to win. I would tell you what happened on Universe, but I think Carleton's Twitter thread sums it up best. Oh, we won on Uni D point. I don't know. I think Declan scored. It was sick. With the Cut getting a break on the first and last point of the game, they won 12-11. With Carleton's win, they sit in second behind Georgia. With Pitt and Contra winning their games, they cracked the top 10, while Tufts and the Nightmares climbed into contention with their wins. In the 5th round, Pitt, Vermont, and UMass moved up the ranks, each getting a win, while Contra gets knocked out after losing to Pitt in a tough Universe loss. At this point, almost everyone's games are completed for the day. There were only 3 games left. The first, Vermont versus Contra, and the other, Pitt versus Minnesota. Again, there is no footage of this game, so I'm gonna have to rely on Twitter. Pitt and the Ducks each start with 2 holds, but Minnesota breaks first with a Gabe Huck to AK. Both continue to hold until the score reached 5-6, where the Ducks were able to force 2 turns and break for half. After the half, Pitt couldn't manage one more break, and the Ducks ran away with it, winning 9-13. This 4-point loss knocked Pitt out of the top 10, where Minnesota took their place. Vermont was able to shut down Contra, joining Georgia, Carleton, and UMass heading into day 2. On Saturday, the fog started to roll in and engulf the fields. Without a clear vision of the end zones, games were defensive battles with lots of turns and lots of action. Luckily, the first match of the day featured the top 2 teams of the tournament going head-to-head, Georgia versus the Cut. Going back to Twitter, we can see how this game played out. Georgia broke first, followed by a hold and a break for Cut, then a hold and a break for Georgia. With the offenses getting their nerves out, they each continued to hold until the half. Georgia held coming out of the half, and then eventually got a break, giving Georgia a 7-10 lead. But Carleton wasn't giving up. They would hold and then break, making the game 9-10. Then after Georgia committed another turn, the Cut were able to convert one last break, tying the game 10-10. And I think it's only fitting we turn back to Cut's Twitter to hear the ending. Daniel Callahan, first throw, 11-10, game, more stats for Dan. With Vermont losing to Pitt, the Chill found themselves on the hot seat. Pittsburgh moved up to 7th. With everyone else winning their games, the race for the top 8 spots was going to be close, a likely scenario being a 4-1 team getting knocked out. Heading into round 3, the Tufts lost to the Tough, sending them out of the top 8, leaving Texas, Northeastern, and Georgia firmly sitting in the top 8 after finishing their games. This leaves us at round 4, where Vermont and Minnesota are set to fight for the last spot on the bracket. The Ducks hold on for the first point, but Vermont is able to score 2 quick breaks, putting them up 2-4. But the Ducks started firing and went on a 4-point run before scoring to go into half 7-5. The Ducks and the Chill continued to hold coming out of the half, but eventually the Ducks got another break and were able to cruise to victory, winning 13-10. Minnesota looked like they could be out of this tournament after their Universe loss to Texas A&M, but they were able to rise from the ashes and snag the 8th seed in the bracket, knocking out Pitt and Vermont in the process. And unfortunately for Vermont, being up 3-0 at the start of the day and then losing out, ending 3-2 and the 11th seed for the tournament. With the round robin completed, it's time for the best day of the tournament. Sunday, Sunday, Sunday. The quarterfinals were full of close matches, with Brown beating Northeastern on Universe, UMass beating the Nightmares by 3, and Georgia taking care of Tough. In the Carleton-Minnesota game, the Cut jumped out to an early lead, scoring a break on their 4th defensive possession. Then, Cut forced a turn and had an opportunity to extend their lead by 2.
You in black.
But the Ducks' O-line defense held strong, scoring on offense
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak.
and then getting a break on defense. This didn't faze the Cut though, as they went on to hold
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak.
and then break for half. Coming out of the half, Carleton had another opportunity to go up 2 breaks on the goal line, but they couldn't get it done. Eventually, the Ducks got a D in the end zone,
Not in my house.
and scored a break, giving them the O-line advantage. Because of that break, Minnesota had offensive possession on Universe. Their chilly O-line was able to punch in the final score, winning the game 15-14. In the semifinals, Georgia continued to play well and beat UMass 9-12, while the Minnesota Brown game was another dogfight. The Ducks broke on the first possession in the pouring rain. Fortunately, the game was stopped for a weather delay and picked back up over an hour later. Minnesota then got another break. It then looked like the Ducks were going to get another D that could have led them to their 3rd break.
Fuck out of here.
This seemed to swing the momentum because, on the next point, the Ducks committed a turn and the Motion were able to get their first break. Both offenses started to light up, scoring quickly and efficiently, until the Ducks committed another turn that the Motion were able to capitalize on, going into halftime with each team having an even number of breaks. After half, Brown came out in a zone, but Minnesota stayed poised and scored to tie the game. Both teams were turning the disc over,
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that
but the
weak
O-line defenses weren't allowing any breaks. But the Ducks were able to get through first, scoring the first break after half. The D-lines continued to fight, getting turns, but not being able to convert.
Fuck out of here, boy. Get that weak
This led the Ducks D-line getting a chance to break and put the game out of reach. But they couldn't capitalize, and the motion kept the game close. Then, on the next possession, Brown tied the break total again at 3 breaks apiece. Thanks to Brown's last break, they had offensive possession going into the universe point. Brown kept a chilly O-line and scored, winning the game 15-14. Here we are. After 2 days of games and a thrilling Sunday bracket, 2 schools made it to the finals: Brown Motion and Joja, Georgia. Both offenses started efficiently, only committing a combined 3 turns and scoring 4 points each. But Brown started to turn the disc, which Joja was able to turn into 2 breaks. Georgia's offense initiated out of almost every offense you can think of: split stack, ho stack, T stack, and even vert at one point. They mostly stuck to T and split stack though, flowing into a ho stack. Brown's offense likes to initiate out of either side or T stack. They would then flow in a mix of side and ho stack while occasionally running dominator. Both defenses played man while covering the lanes for most of the game, but they each attempted a zone at least once. Georgia would go on to take half, 6-8. Coming out of the half, Georgia continued to hold until the score reached 7-9, where Georgia committed 3 turns.
Fuck out of here, boy. Get
But
that
Brown couldn't capitalize, and Joja was able to hold. This then led to 2 Georgia breaks, putting them up 8-13. With the game eventually reaching 10-14, Joja just needed 1 more break to win the game. Joja wins 10-15. I think Joja's performance can be summed up by the O-line's defense. In a game where Georgia committed more than 7 turnovers, Brown wasn't able to convert a single break due to Georgia's suffocating defense. I also think that their emerging big 3, number 6, Aiden Downey, number 7, Jack Stephenson, and number 18, Adam Miller, played huge roles. These 3 players accounted for 100% of their team's scoring, meaning that for every single one of the 15 points Joja scored, at least one of these 3 either threw the assist or caught the score. The next tournament I'm going to be covering is the President's Day Invite in San Diego. I'm also going to be making a few more memes between now and then, so if you're interested in that, consider subscribing. Like the video if you liked it, or dislike if you disliked it. If I got any facts wrong, leave a comment so I can improve. I'll see you all in the next recap. And of course, always lay out.